Hello and welcome everybody to Fandom Fridays, where we proceed to look at fanfics that are not pony related. Why? Well, I kind of got this condition where if I don't read some other fanfic once in a once every other week, I will turn into a pony. Most likely a blue Pegasus with a black cape, which I am already, so yay me. And I decided to go back to one of our earlier chapters today, mainly because, well, I really do want to get through all this before the new Star Wars movie comes out. And if got started, 3 new Senshi isn't just awesome. So yes, our old friend Arcade Striker is back in the game with 3 new Senshi, Arc 2. So join us as we hear the Tree Bearing Memorial Library proud to present 3 new Sailor Senshi by Arcade Striker JK5, Arc 2. Jaina and Jason, after traveling through an error dimension, meet up with the Sailor Senshi. There, three of the girls find out that they are in fact Sailor Senshi of their own galaxy. After defeating Emperor Palpatine, they soon return home. But little do they know that there's a dark force awaiting in the wings. Chapter 1. Old Enemies. Along the border between the New Republic and the Imperial Remnant lay Tangerine, a fortress planet controlled by neither. A small fleet orbited the rocky planet. All Imperial vessels, though no one aboard could claim allegiance with the Remnant. According to the crew of those ships, they were the true Imperials, not the traitors on Bastion. One day, a small ship approached the planet, a cargo ship called the Gravedigger. Normally, such a vessel would be blasted into oblivion by turbo laser blasts, but not today. Today, the box with engines was allowed to land on the ISS Behemoth shuttle bay. A greasy fellow disembarked named Severe Loaf. He was carrying a small sheet of metal bent in half and held together by a lock. White-armored stormtroopers escorted him to a door and motioned him to go in. Severe wiped his hands on his pants, but the door slid open before he could touch the control panel. He stepped into a darkened room, lit only by the candles by the far end. "Lady, I have your map," Severe said, tossing the bent metal into the room. It landed with a thud in front of a woman in a chair in the center of the room. She leaned over and picked up the metal. She examined the lock, and one could hear the whirring of gears and motors as she flexed her cybernetic fingers. She looked up at the smuggler. "Where is the key?" This caught Severe by surprise. "Huh? You're a Jedi or something. Open it with your mind. I don't have time to..." He stopped talking as his train of thought and oxygen supply was suddenly cut off. She ran the gloved hand over the lock. A simple clasp with a small bowl-shaped indentation on it. "This lock was forged with Sith alchemy. I simply can't open it with my head, as you suggest." By then, however, Severe was beyond listening or caring. He was dead and being dragged from the hallway. The woman, a bitter Sith by the name of Lumia, examined the ancient glyphs carved into the metal. She penned out the words, eventually forming them into basic. "The key to power resides in the Kyber crystal. Find it, and you will resurrect an empire." Jaina Solo couldn't help but be ecstatic. 4 days ago, she and her friends nearly died when the ship she was piloting plowed into a hyperspace instability. She and her friends, young Jedi trainees, had crashed onto a planet called Earth. Landing there for repairs, they met 9 remarkable young women, each endowed with a special power and ability to transform into soldiers of the Force, known as the Sailor Senshi. Eventually, the Senshi and Jedi teamed up to fight an old enemy of both, and in the process, Jaina and 2 of her friends, Tenoka and Tairi, gained Senshi powers, along with their already incredible Jedi powers. Now they were back in their own reality, and ready to return to Yavin 4. Jaina was piloting with the help of Lobaka, her Wookiee friend and fellow trainee. She set the controls for Yavin 4. "You know, Chloe," I have a good feeling about this. She turned to the lanky, walking carpet next to her and smiled. Can't wait to see the look on Uncle Luke's face when we transform into Senshi. Lily bared his fangs in a smile and pointed out the window. On his belt sat a little transistor droid named MDT. Mr. Soto, I suggest you look out the window before... Oh dear. Jaina turned to the cockpit window, smile failing as she saw several ships outside. The first one was a battered X-Wing fighter, with several dozen kill marks along its sleek fuselage. The second was an even more battered YT-1300 Corellian fighter. The final ship resembled a flying castle, straight out of an old fairy tale. Jaina could identify each ship on sight as Master Luke Skywalker's X-Wing, her father's personal freighter, the Millennium Falcon, and the Starhome, a transport vessel reserved exclusively for the Queen Mother of the Hapes cluster. She checked the comm system and found an automated beacon directing her to land in the Starhome's lower hangar bays. Lily pointed to the flying castle and asked, "Do we go in?" Jaina shook her head. "I'd rather face a Sith Lord than my father." 5 minutes later. The Rock Dragon landed perfectly in the Starhome's hangar bay, followed by Luke Skywalker's X-Wing and the Millennium Falcon. Jaina and Lily were the first to depart, followed by Jason, Jaina's twin brother, and Anakin, their twin kid brother. Following them was several of their friends. The Falcon's boarding ramp opened up, and the ramp had not even hit the deck plane when a blur of white enveloped Jaina, Anakin, and Jason. "Where were you? I couldn't feel you! I couldn't see you!" It was their mother, New Republic President Leia Organa Solo. She was quickly followed by her husband Lon and Lily's uncle Chewbacca. Chewie enveloped Jaina in a Wookiee hug. "Chewie! Can't breathe!" She sobbed softly and inhaled deeply as Chewie sheepishly put her down. Jason looked over at his mother. "Mom, what's wrong?" He saw her eyes were red from crying. Leia shook her head and cleared her thoughts. "I couldn't sense any of you. Any of you. We all thought you were dead." She gestured to a figure approaching from the X-Wing. Jason glanced over and could see the tremendous power emanating from him. It was Uncle Luke, head of the Jedi Order. And the image in my head of Luke just walking forward and all this force energy just flowing off of him looks totally awesome. Luke walked up to Jason and placed his hand on his shoulder. "I couldn't sense you," he said, about to break into tears. Jason nodded, uncertain what to say. "I understand now. We weren't in this galaxy. We weren't even in this reality. Frankly, none of us knew where we were." Elsewhere, other reunions were taking place. Tenno Khan was wandering around the hangar bay. She knew a way around well, mostly because her mother was Queen Mother of the Hapes cluster and owned a ship. She turned from the Solo Skywalker reunion and bumped into a slightly taller woman, her mother, Tennille Jizou, who wrapped her only daughter in a fierce bear hug. "My daughter, you're alive!" Tenno Khan returned the hug with her good arm. Yes, I am." Tennille took a step back and looked her daughter over. "You seem different. What happened?" The warrior princess let go of Tennille and led her down to the rest of the group. She took hold of Jaina and a small blonde teenager called Tahiri and led them to the opposite side of the hangar. Jaina knew what Tenno Khan wanted. "We've got to show them, right?" Tenno Khan nodded. "Fact!" She turned to Luke before swallowing speaker. Master Skywalker, could you please scan Jaina, Tahiri, and I?" The Jedi Master nodded and sent a small tendril of the Force out to each girl. His eyes shot up in surprise when he sensed the power within. "Impressive. May I ask how you each doubled in power only over 4 days?" You don't realize how hard it is when doing Mark Hamill to not slip into that Joker voice! The trio of teenagers looked at each other and nodded. No turning back. Each one raised their right arm. A small ornate rod appeared in their hands, as each one shouted out their transformation phrase. Koyoya power, make up! Dathomir power, make up! Tatooine power, make up! Tina was bathed in a gray energy field as she whirled about. Her clothes melted and took on new shapes, forming into a gray skirt, matching high ankle boots, and a silver fuku with a black bow in front. Elbow-length gloves completed the ensemble. A red mist, meanwhile, enveloped Tennoka, forming into her Senshi uniform, a skirt as red as her hair, matching high heels and bow. Finally, Tairi was enveloped in a virtual sandstorm that melted into her uniform, a yellow skirt, knee-high boots, and elbow-length gloves. Han stared with his mouth wide open as he tried and failed to comprehend what had just happened. He walked toward his daughter, not quite believing what he saw. Before he could articulate anything, Tina stepped forward and grabbed his shoulders. Dad, it's me. I'm still Jaina Solo, your daughter. While on this planet called Earth, we met up with some people called the Singer Senshi, and their guardians showed us how to tap into new powers. Han licked his lips and inhaled. Okay. But these aren't dark side powers, right? Terry shook her head. No, they're not. Actually, Master Solo, the Senshi fight for love and justice. We're the good guys, right, Tennoka? Tennoka looked over at Tairi and nodded. That is a fact. She raised her left arm and held it out. Senshi powers are truly amazing. Tina Zhou let out a gasp as she saw her daughter with a fully formed arm. What magic is this? Luke's head suddenly shot up in alarm. He unclipped a 30mm gunmetal rod from his belt and pressed a button on it, releasing a green energy blade from it. Jedi Master walked over to an empty area near the rock dragon. I sense something, he muttered. It's incredibly powerful. He was joined by Han and Chewie, blaster and bowcaster ready. Where is it, kid? Jedi Master shook his head. Actually, it feels similar to the girl's new Senshi powers, but incredibly stronger, more focused. Suddenly, a blindingly white energy spear appeared out of nowhere. Luke shielded his eyes before he went blind. When he could see again, 5 young ladies, each in an outfit similar to the girl's uniform, were standing in a circle holding hands. After a second, they let go and looked around. In the center of the group was a small black feline with a crescent-shaped mark on his forehead. While the girls hung back, the tabby walked up to the stunned Luke and sat down and started speaking. Excuse me, but could you direct us to 19 acres with... Oh, there you are! She turned to face Jaina, Tennoka, and Tairi, who were walking up to the cat. Tairi looked down. A large smile plastered her face. Hey, Luna, what are you doing here? Wait a minute. How did you even get here? What was that? One of the Senshi stepped forward. She was about Tairi's height, with a blue skirt, matching knee-high boots, and a mop of sky-blue hair. There's this technique called Sinner Teleport. It takes 5 Senshi to do it, but we can transport ourselves virtually anywhere. I did a quantum scan of you before you left, and allowed us to track you through dimensions. She turned to Luke, Chewie, and Han to bow. I apologize for not introducing myself. My name is Mizuno Ami. I'm the Senshi of Water, Sailor Mercury. Chapter 2. School Days. Oh gods. School days. No! Get back here! It's not that school days! Are you sure? Yes, he's positive. Phew. Luke reached out with the Force, lightly probing Ami. What he found surprised him. She had one of the purest souls he had ever encountered. He extinguished his lightsaber and reached out his hand. Mizuno, my name is Luke Skywalker. He quickly nudged Han and Julie. Put down your weapons, guys. She won't hurt you. The two glanced up at Luke, glanced at Ami, then holstered their weapons. Chewie sniffed the air, lightly burying his fangs in the process. Jaina picked up on that and elbowed in her ribs. She bowed slightly to Ami, remembering some of the customs of Japan. It's good to see you, but why are you here? 2 of Ami's companions stepped forward, both about a head taller than Ami. One had short, almost crew-cut, light blonde hair. Her companion had shoulder-length, aqua-colored hair. The blonde extended her hand to Luke, who accepted it. It's simple. We want to be Jedi. So, when we get those nifty laser swords. And 5 minutes in, and already this fic is better than most of the other Sailor Moon crossovers I've ever read. A few hours later, the Star Home orbiting Yavin 4, Jungle Moon, and home of the Jedi Academy. There, decisions about the future would be made. Han and Leia stood in the Great Temple's main foyer and chatted with Mayo Setsuna. The Roguish man eyed her and spoke.
So, how we know you're not some leftover Sith faction?
Setsuna's forehead scrunched in confusion. Who or what are the Sith? She asked. Leia cleared her throat, allowing her to dredge up some old memories. The Sith are a group of dark side users. They nearly destroyed the old Jedi Order. Setsuna nodded in understanding. No, we are not Sith. Han could read people like a book. He knew when they were lying and when they told the truth. And he knew Setsuna was telling the truth.
Okay, I believe you.
He looked Setsuna square in her red eyes and said,
Just look out for my daughter, okay?
The Guardian of Time nodded with an air of solemnity. I swear it, Han. Leia reached out with the Force and lightly probed Setsuna. She sensed earnestness and a deep sense of duty and an ancient soul. She stepped back and bowed slightly. I know, Jaina. Tenoka and Tairi will be in good hands. General Zhou and her daughter stood in the Academy's hangar bay next to a Haipin shuttle. Queen Mother Hapes put a hand on Tenoka's left shoulder and said, You have been blessed, my daughter. It's exceedingly rare to gain a new arm without it being mechanical. Tenoka nodded. That's a fact, Mother. She glanced down at the stump and sighed. If only it would be that way normally. She looked up at her Tenno and her mother. Tenno wrapped her arms around her and gave her a hug. May the Force be with you, she said. Tenoka mumbled, and with you. With that, Queen Mother let go and boarded the shuttle. Tenoka watched as her mother left the Jedi Academy. A fierce determination swelled in Tenoka. I will gain mastery of my new powers. I swear it! Several hours later, Grand Audience Chamber. Luke faced a small dilemma. What was he supposed to do with 5 Force-sensitive women, all wanting to be trained as a Jedi? The quintet was lined up in the Grand Audience Chamber, and Luke approached them. I'm going to reach into your mind and touch an area known for primitive thoughts, the reptile portion of your mind. The response will determine your potential and be trained in the ways of the Jedi. It will not, however, be a reflection of your powers as a Senshi. Therefore, I ask you to revert back to your normal identities. They all looked at each other and half closed their eyes. A swirl of blue, aquamarine, yellow, green, and purple enveloped the girls as they turned back to ordinary women. Luke walked up to the first one, Ami. She blushed deeply as he came up. Don't worry, he said. You won't feel a thing. We know. Luke's going to have more power than she does, and all the Senshi are going to have weak, indefensible little power levels that are going to make them inferior to Luke's giant lightsaber, and all the Senshi are going to be weak and insulted and treated as less than nothing due to the fact that the author wants to show off how cool the Star Wars characters are. Because as we all know, anything Sailor Moon related is lame, so let's just get over with the weak showing of the power so I can move on. He reached out with the Force, probing the primitive areas of the brain. Without warning, he stumbled back a few meters. I'm sorry, could you repeat that? Without warning, he stumbled back a few meters. You're the best! Nothing's ever gonna keep you down! Oh, fanfic. I want to marry you. Thank you. That was awesome. Actually having the sense of being the great, awesome warriors that I know and love. Thank you. And not having to lower anybody here without, making the other side look weak. That's what a crossover's all about, man. Thank you. Ami's eyes bugged out as she rushed to grab him. I'm so sorry. Please forgive me, she said, simultaneously bowing her head. Luke chuckled as he allowed her to help him get balance. It's all right. That's natural. All those with force reflexively shoved back telekinetically when probed there. He brushed off his white clothes. The force is strong with you. He walked up to the next one, an almost Amazonian woman with short blonde hair, named Tenno HAuka. She looked him in the eyes. I hope you don't mind ending up in the bleachers. At that statement, the Jedi Master shook his head. Arrogance, pride. A Jedi needs not these things. Haruka's face blushed in shame as Luke probed. She felt even worse when he barely took 10 steps back. As a Senshi, you are powerful. As a Jedi. He let those words hang on as he went to the next Senshi. Kairi Mirir was next. She sighed as Luke probed her mind. I apologize for my girlfriend. She's a little hot-headed sometimes. Luke nodded. If she wants to be a Jedi, she must learn to overcome her temper. He probed the elegant lady with the Force, and was forced back by her automatic defenses. It wasn't much as Ami's, but more than Haruka's by a full 75 meters. Haruka glanced at Michiru. We'll talk later. Was written all over her face. Tomoe Hataru barely came up to Luke's waist. Aww! She was looking straight down, and Luke could very well see a look of embarrassment plastered on her young face. He touched her chin and directed her face up so he could look into her eye. Are you afraid? He asked. Hataru looked as he was about to burst into tears, but swallowed and nodded. Jedi Master nodded. Well, that's all right. The path of a Jedi isn't easy, but it can be rewarding beyond almost anything. He reached out, and touching the primitive area of her mind, the part most people think or hope isn't there anymore. He was abruptly rewarded by a force shove that took him straight off the stage. Hataru and the rest gasped in horror as Luke plummeted. They rushed over to the edge and saw him floating in midair, supported only by his will and mastery of the Force. Luke concentrated, willing himself back up. Though it wasn't a long fall, it still intensely rattled him. No Jedi had ever exhibited such raw Force potential, at least not under Luke's relatively short tenure. He floated up and stepped back onto the stage, where the candidates looked down with equal parts awe and fear. Jedi Master nodded at them in reassurance and approached the last candidate, Mayor Setsuna. So, would you say that Hataru's power level is over 8,000? She was actually taller than he was, with black hair down to almost her slim waist, although it did have a greenish tinge to it. She looked down with scarlet eyes. Luke's eyebrows shot up. You have seen much. She nodded. And you will see even more. Luke probed with the Force, freeing himself for a shove. He got it, and then some, being propelled all the way to the end of the audience chamber. He quickly oriented himself so he hit heat first. As he dropped, he slowed his descent so the impact wasn't bone-breaking. He looked up and saw the candidates holding over to him. Ami grabbed his arm and tried to haul him up into standing position. Worry tensed her voice as he spoke. Are you alright, Mr. Skywalker? Luke nodded while Setsuna brushed off his sleeve and simultaneously bowed. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Luke shook his head, sending his short blonde hair flying. That was amazing. Also, please, call me Master Skywalker. It's my official title as Jedi Master and Instructor. It took a few moments for the words to sink in, but when they did, Are we going to be trained as Jedi? Hataru half shouted. Luke nodded, a half smile on his face. If you're ready to take on the responsibility, then yes, I will train you. The audience chamber was filled with hoots of delight as the Sailor Senshi embarked on their quest to fulfill their potential, to become Jedi Knights. Speaking of which, I've got 3 unicorns, Luke, that I would love for you to see for their Force potential. Of course. We've got Twilight Sparkle. A pleasure. A pleasure, Master Skywalker. Let's see. Whoa! Sunset Simmer. Hi, you probably won't find a dark past, but we can all go for comments. And finally, we have Trixie Lillamoon. You know, if HAuka was full of pride and arrogance, my gosh, you got more than enough. But since there's something more, boop, isn't moved that much. We'll work on it. Yeah, Trixie, you would have. I kind of could have told you your force potential probably wasn't all that much. I mean, consider it to the others, and Trixie put down a hammer down! The Star Destroyer Fury rocketed through hyperspace. A colonial long arrowhead of destruction. Its sole purpose was to kill. At the helm sat Leonona Tyvira. Although 39, she could have passed for 21 easily, with short, bobbed hair and a body that hadn't quite grown out of adolescence. She wore a slightly oversized Admiral's uniform, giving her the appearance of a child playing dress-up. However she looked, she and the ship were still under the command of Lamia, Dark Lady of the Sith. So what she said was law. You know, I think I could figure out my one problem with this whole entire fic. It's the fact that since this is set after Jaina, Jason, and Anakin have grown up a lot, Thrawn is dead. So I can't do Admiral Thrawn. This is a sad thing. Leona was known for her ability to dig information out, no matter how long it had been buried. When Lamia directed her to find a Kyber crystal, she immediately knew where to go. Luke Skywalker's journals. Hacking into Coruscant security would have been costly, so she parlayed other talents of hers and got access to the files. The first entries were fairly fruitless, until he mentioned a visit to a planet in the Outer Rim and an encounter with Darth Vader. Vader, she thought. Her suspicions were confirmed when it mentioned an item of unknown significance that sealed it for her. The calm officer on the crew pit at her feet interrupted her musings. Admiral, there's a signal coming in from Red Channel on Tangerine. Leona nodded and walked to the back. She entered her turbo lift and was sped off to her quarters. Now, stop thinking of Star Trek. Turbo lifts can be universal. She stepped off and made a beeline for her room. Red Channel was meant only one thing. Lamia was calling. Leona entered her room and stopped on a metal plate in the center. A ring of blue light surrounded her, scanning her image and transmitting it to Tangerine. In front of her, a ghostly image appeared. It was Lamia. Report, she said. The young admiral smiled. We are on our way to Nal Hutta to pick up supplies. After that, we are off to Yavin 4. Lamia nodded. What will be your ETA? 2 weeks. Back on the Behemoth, Lamia groaned at the news. 2 weeks was a long time for a person with limited patience. But without the supplies, her ships wouldn't run. Very well, but remember this. If you don't get the Kyber crystal, don't bother coming back! A look of fear crossed Leona's face as Lamia disconnected the comm symbol. Dark Lady of the Sith turned to the two women standing in the room's shadows. Phase 1 will soon be complete, she said to them. The first woman was clad in an admiral's uniform and had light red hair. Her face would have been described as pretty if it didn't have a tired expression. The second woman was slightly shorter, with a lithe body topped by short, dirty blonde hair and barely covered up by a dress and vest. The first woman, Admiral Dalla, spoke up. I hope you know what you're doing, Lamia. I didn't betray the remnant for nothing. The second woman rolled her eyes. She knows what she's doing, Dada. She isn't a current Sith Lord for nothing. Lamia regarded the woman. She was Lamia's apprentice in Ways of the Sith, a former Jedi called Callista. Callista bit up her lip as she worked up the courage to question Lamia. Mistress, she started. Are you sure about your vision? Do we need another? Lamia smiled. She brought her cybernetic hand up and squeezed. Kalisa's cheeks began turning crimson as her air supply was cut off. The vision is correct, my young apprentice. I saw 5 figures standing triumphant on Korriban. We number 4 now. She let the force choke in, letting Kalista drop to the floor. She began sucking in large gulps of oxygen as Lumia turned away from the troop. The group needed one more member. If victory would be hers. Yavin 4. Hotaru couldn't remember a time when she was so giddy. After she was accepted by Master Skywalker to be a student at his academy, the first few days were spent in orientation and meeting her instructions. There, she and her friends, Ami, HAuka, Mirir, and Setsuna, were placed in appropriate classes. Right now, she was meditating in a grassy field in sight of the great temple. She could sense the pebbles in front of her, and how they were a part of her. She reached out with the force and lifted them up. She began spinning them, trying to figure out what to do with them. And she sensed her 2 friends behind her. She turned her head and looked up at Anakin Solo and Tahiri Vila. The 2 sat down with Tahiri and began speaking almost menacingly. So, how's the training, Hotaru? I heard Master Skywalker put you in an advanced class. How is it? I'm stuck in beginner classes with Anakin, and it stinks a high bantha! Before the small motor valve could restart, Anakin interrupted. Perhaps we could let Hotaru get a word in? Mostly for Hotaru to speak, but she seemed distracted, and for some reason she was blushing. Anakin picked up on that. Is the climate too warm for you? He chuckled dryly. I guess the jungle moon is a bit warmer than downtown Juban. Oh, Hotaru's got a crush. Hotaru's got a crush. Hotaru was hot, but not from the climate. She couldn't stop herself from staring into Anakin's ice blue eyes. She swallowed and blinked rapidly to clear her head. I'm fine, Anakin. Actually, Tahiri, Master Skywalker's having us all take basic courses in Jedi behavior techniques. He doesn't want us falling to the dark side. Tahiri nodded. That makes both of us. I mean, Force knows what would happen if you let loose with a Death Reborn revolution. Tahiri chuckled and wiped her eyes with an expression of mortification across Anakin's normally impassive face. Hotaru, meanwhile, fought back tears as he relived some of her worst moments. Tahiri looked at her fellow Senshi and knew she had hurt her. Normally chatty blonde was at a loss for words as she stammered an apology. I'm sorry. I didn't know. Hotaru sighed. It's all right. I hardly even think about it anymore. Except in my nightmares. She got up and turned away. Sorry, but I have to go now. She began running out toward the great temple, tears streaming down her face. Anakin turned to Tahiri, face hot with anger and embarrassment. Do you ever stop to think before you open your mouth? His young fist twisted into a scowl as he ran after the young Senshi, leaving a thoroughly insane and embarrassed young girl behind. Hotaru ran up to the temple steps, 2 at a time, rushing past the partying students and making a dash for her room on the 2nd floor. Upon entering, she slammed the door shut and collapsed in a heap, tears streaming down her face as she relived one of the worst moments of her life, when she was possessed by aliens for Tau Ceti and forced against her will to betray her friends. So wrapped up in her memories was she, the rapping on the door barely registered. After a few minutes, she wiped her eyes dry and got up. Go away, she sniffled. The voice on the other side convinced her to open the door. Hotaru, it's me, Anakin. The young man entered Hotaru's room and looked around. He marveled at the over 24 lamps scattered about the room. These look nice, he said, bending down to examine a Mon Calamari lamp made out of shells. Thank you. See, this is what happens when a fan actually writes fan fiction. We get to see Hotaru's lamp collection! He straightened up and turned toward her. I'd like to apologize on behalf of Tahiri. Her comments were out of line. Hotaru put her hand on Anakin's shoulder. It's all right. She's already apologized. Besides, it's not like she knew. The young man shrugged. I've had my brushes with the dark side. The spirit that aided Jedi was once a Sith Lord inherited named Palpatine. When I was 2 years old, he tried to possess my body and claim it as his own. Ugh. He started involuntarily at the memories. Hotaru nodded. I can sympathize. When I was younger, an alien being named Mistress Nine possessed my body, forcing me to hurt the people who befriended me. She looked down, but Anakin reached down and grabbed her chin, tilting her face up. You weren't in control. I could sense that much. His gaze bore into her. Did you fight it? Hotaru thought for a moment before nodding. Yes, I thought. Anakin nodded. Did you win? Hotaru looked down, slightly askance. I suppose so. Anakin, who was now smiling, interrupted her. You faced the dark side and won. I say that's a pretty good accomplishment. He motioned to the door. You want to grab a bite to eat in the cafeteria? A smile blossomed on Hotaru's face. I'd love to. She opened the door and led him out of the cafeteria. Chapter 3. Harsh Lessons. Anakin and Hotaru entered the cafeteria and immediately spotted Jason, Jaina, and their friend Zek sitting at a table. Jason looked up and motioned the pair over the table. Jaina spoke while Anakin pulled out a chair for Hotaru. So, how are things, Hotaru? The smallest girl shrugged. I was feeling depressed, but Anakin helped me out a bit. Jason nearly choked on his blue milk in surprise. Anakin? Helped you out depression? The youngest soul looked around in confusion. I don't get it. What's the problem? Zek chuckled at the young man's naivete. I'll tell you when you're older. Jaina began chuckling, but turned to cost to enough. Zek gave Jaina a sympathetic look. Is sensing training really that difficult? The young woman gave her boyfriend a hard glare. I'm trying to learn how to control energy bursts capable of penetrating solid durasteel, not to mention the fact that Luna is a surprisingly harsh taskmistress. Zek laughed at that. Oh, come on! She's a small cat. How difficult can she be? The former Darkest Knight's chuckles faded, and he withered under Jaina and Hotaru's glare. Zek turned to the two male Zolos for help. The all he got were snickers from Anakin, and a shrug for Jaina. Zek turned to Jaina. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to imply anything about that. He was cut off by a gesture for Jaina. No need to apologize, Zek. I understand you're a man, and sometimes you don't think before speaking. Just then, Tenno Ka sat down. Or rather, Sailor Dathomir sat down. She nodded to her friends, who could only stare. The normally one-armed Jedi looked around. Is something the matter? Hotaru spoke. Tenno Ka, why are you still in Gensei mode? Jaina looked at her friends at a glance. Yeah, Luna told us to become Sailor Senshi only when training or fighting evil. Hotaru nodded. She's right. Our power doesn't last indefinitely. She must be recharged when not in use. Tenno looked down, hiding her eyes in shadow. Yeah, I remember that. She got out and held out her right hand. A red mist enveloped her, dissolving her Sailor Fuku, and leaving her in lizard skin armor. Her left arm below the elbow also dissolved, flowing into her right hand and coalescing into an ornate rod. Jaina looked at her friend. This was the third time that Tenno Ka was in Senshi outside of training. Is everything all right, Tenno Ka? She asked, concern evident on her voice. The warrior princess looked up from her meal. Yes, I'm fine. Jason looked at his sister, Jaina, and, hopefully, his girlfriend, Tenno Ka. What's up with you two? There's more tension here than at a Sith convention. Jaina gave her brother a glance. We'll talk about it later, was written all over her face. Anakin, silent through the exchange, decided to throw his 2 credits in. Perhaps you two simply need to let out some aggression before it builds up. Perhaps... He was interrupted by a small shriek from Hotaru. I'm late! Lightsaber practice started 10 minutes ago. She quickly got up and grabbed onto Anakin's arm, holding him out of his chair. We gotta go! It was nice talking to you! The 2 teenagers made a beeline for the door. It was several minutes before Zek rolled his eyes. Tyree's gonna be so jealous to see those two. He had said thought, wait, but I just see whole Anakin with her. Over the next week and a half, Luna instructed Jaina, Tahiri, and Tenno-Ka in the use of their Senshi powers. Alternatively, Ami, Haruka, Yasiru, Hotaru, and Setsuna studied the ways of the Jedi Knight. One morning, the three Senshi trainees were far from their temple, in a burnt-out clearing. Sailor Dathomir and Corellia, aka Tenno-Ka and Jaina, were firing their attacks at Sailor Tatooine, aka Tahiri, who was doing her best to dodge them. All the while, Luna was shouting out instructions from a tree stump. Make sure to keep your arms up! The uniform's a lot tougher than it appears to be. Corellia, for God's sakes, aim at her! Don't be afraid to center a little! Tatooine grimaced at the thought of being burned alive by her friends. So she continually rolled and backflipped out of the way. After about half an hour, Luna shouted, Alright, let's switch to energy control! I want you to start trying to focus your blast into entire beams! Three girls lined up in front of a slate gray wall. Sailor Dathomir, Dathomir's Tenno-Ka, Corellia's Jaina. Forward and extended both arms. Blue flames danced around her fingertips as she summoned her body. Her attack, Dathomir Heat Wave. Don't worry, it surrounded her arms in a wreath of flame. But Dathomir found if she could concentrate hard enough, she could direct it to any part of the body. A long tongue of flames leapt out and struck the wall, searing it, but did little damage. The normally stoic Jedi growled, I can't believe I did so little damage! Luke shook her head. All you're doing here is training, Tenno-Ka. For Sailor Senshi, the battlefield is usually where our new powers are gained. As you all know, warfare can be tremendously stressful. It pushes you beyond your limits, and can often be your darkest hour. The small feline paused as he searched for the right words. There's an old saying back on Earth. It's always darkest before the dawn. Just when you think there's no hope left, just when you think you're all alone, that's when the Senshi are separated from schoolgirls. I want to reiterate what I've been saying throughout most of the story. I love this fic. The three Senshi in training glanced at each other, then at Luna, then at each other again. Finally, Tatooine walked over and crouched down in front of the confused cat. Luna, you're a group friend and a great coach, but please, no more cliches, okay? Corellia's face held a serious countenance before blossoming into a smile. I guess that means training's done for today? Dathomir looked over at her best friend and nodded. That's a fact. Corellia held up her hand and concentrated. Her Senshi uniform lost cohesion and streamed up into her hand, coalescing into a 10-centimeter rod. Sailor Tatooine did the same, transforming from a warrior of love and justice into a 15-year-old girl. Both looked at Tenno-Ka, who was still Sailor Dathomir. Jaina looked over at her friend. Tenno-Ka, I don't mean to pry, but why are you still a Senshi? Training's over. Dathomir flicked a lock of red hair out of her eyes. I'm simply wondering how long I can remain a Sailor Senshi before I lose power. It's something we should know before we're heading into a battle. Luna gave her a hard stare. You have 72 hours before you detransform at your current level. Once you hit star power, 120. Crystal power, and your power levels become nearly infinite. The black cat looked up, looked at Warrior Princess in her gray eyes. Senshi powers are not to be played around with. You of all people should know that, being a Jedi. Hey, Luna, speaking from experience, are we? Have you ever seen how many times the Princess of the Moon used her freaking wand as a nutcracker? Sailor Dathomir looked around, almost nervously before letting out a sigh. Very well. I shall revert. She held out her hand and concentrated. After a moment, she was once more clad in lizard skin armor. Jaina walked past her, glancing at her friend and wondering just what her problem was. Let's go, she said, walking in the direction of the great temple. Tenno-Ka followed behind, almost reluctantly. Tahiri scooped up Luna and followed his hue. I got a bad feeling about this, Luna, she said in a shaky voice. No, don't say that. In Star Wars, something bad always happens whenever you say those words. Tenno-Ka usually doesn't display so much emotion. Luna digested that information before speaking. Those two are heading for a confrontation. I can feel it. She looked up at her young charge. The only thing we can do is stay out of the way when they decide to sell it. HAuka looked out the window. She was bored. Terminally bored. She wasn't running. She wasn't dueling with a lightsaber. She was in a classroom with beings half her age learning the basics of the Force. It was completely humiliating. The instructor, Camp something, was droning on about the three basic Force powers: sense, alter, and control. HAuka's eyes began to glaze over, almost falling into a meditative trance when a chime sounded, startling HAuka into consciousness and nearly pitching her out of her chair. The instructor glanced at the datapad before calling out his final instructions. Remember to practice meditative healing, and don't overexert yourselves while doing it. HAuka shuffled out of the classroom. The tall blonde looked around and soon spotted her best friend, Kaiwa Michiru. The petite woman with aquamarine hair walked up to her companion and beside HAuka. How was class? HAuka blew a strand out of her hair and eyes of frustration. It isn't fair! Setsuna and Hotaru are already training with stun sticks and researching lightsaber construction techniques, and you and Ami are doing levitation! She kicked at the floor, stirring up dust. Michiru pursed her lips. I know it seems unfair, but you did make that comment to Master Skywalker when we were tested. You do have a lot of pride. She quickened her pace so she could spin around and face HAuka while talking. There are storm clouds coming. The wind has paused and is gathering strength. Pride now would be incredibly dangerous. HAuka gasped. Have you had a vision? Michiru nodded until all trace of fun was gone from her eyes. I was meditating when I received a vision. One of us fell to the dark side, bringing a ruin to us all. I transformed into Sailor Neptune and tried my mirror to find the evil. HAuka's eyes narrowed as she glanced at her best friend. Again, with using best friend as a euphemism for being a lesbian lover. Or, to quote what I said back during Slice of Life, best friend, sure, I do believe you. I also prefer this quote from this one lesbian. Even me and my girlfriend are as gay as these two best friends. So, yeah, I'm just going to say best friend, Are you saying I'll break ruin? She went down Michiru. Michiru, Her voice broke as unwelcome tears threatened to burst. She felt Michiru pat her shoulder. I know you would never willingly hurt any of us. You're far too noble for that. Besides, your hair isn't long enough. HAuka blinked twice at that. What? Michiru led her down the corridor, talking all the while. In my vision, the one who fell had long hair and a lightsaber. I really love a good HAuka and Michiru scene. I really do. Especially between the two best friends. On the bright side, it's not as bad as Cousins. Nothing can be bad as Cousins. HAuka blinked twice at that. What? Michiru led on the corridor, talking all the while. In my vision, the one who fell had long hair and a lightsaber. HAuka nodded at that. It's not me, then. I won't have a lightsaber for a while. She thought for a minute. Hotaru's hair didn't reach her shoulders, so she was out. There left only one person. Do you think it could be Setsuna? Michiru stopped in front of the door. Ask her yourself, she said before opening it. HAuka peeked inside and instantly groaned. Hello, Setsuna, she said. Inside stood Mizuno Ami, Mayo Setsuna, Tomoe Hotaru, and Luke Skywalker. HAuka instantly bowed before the Jedi. Master Skywalker! She looked up and spread her arms. I'm ready to fight the evil. Whoever it is, I'll stand by your side! Luke nodded toward the tomboy. I thank you for that, but I hope you can keep your aggression in check in the coming weeks. He motioned to Michiru. Michiru and I had nearly identical visions. In them, a woman with long hair was brandishing a lightsaber at us. The blade wasn't red, but the surrounding area was too bright to get a color. His piercing gaze landed on Setsuna. Can you tell us anything? The Guardian of Time shook her head. You yourself told me. Always in motion is the future. I'm sorry, but it's as close to me as it is to you. Ami cleared her throat and spoke up.
There must be something we can do. One of our friends is in danger. We must do something about it.
She looked at the older woman and man, feeling all their eyes on her.
I'm sorry.
To her surprise, Luke smiled at her. That is exactly the type of attitude you should have, Ami. He turned to HAuka, Mirir, and Setsuna. Whoever is in danger of falling to the dark side, we must remember that she is still our friend. We must do everything in our power to help her. Hotaru, silent throughout the meeting, raised her hand, clearing her throat.
But why are we operating under the assumption it is her?
Luke paused for a second as he sorted out his thoughts. Well, we both saw long hair and I... His gaze fell upon HAuka's blonde crew cut. Ami's tight head of blonde hair didn't even go past her ears. Hotaru's locks were about the same. Setsuna thought for a second. Sek went to the dark side, and his hair is long enough to be in a ponytail. A former student of yours named Kip Duran also had long hair. Luke nodded. His expression won a slight embarrassment. Well, that is true. But, however, the person I saw in my vision definitely had a female form. He looked at Michiru. Would you agree to that, Michiru? She nodded coyly. That is true, Master Skywalker. It was definitely a woman. She looked around. We should find out who, and soon. They got nods of agreement for everyone. Ami pulled out her mini computer from her pocket.
Master Skywalker, is there any way I can modify my visor to detect dark side heresy?
Luke hesitated. I believe so. But isn't it impossible for you to use it unless you're in your Senshi uniform? Ami shrugged.
I'll just say I'm helping train Jaina, Ka, and Katari.
Luke nodded. All right. He also to everybody. I want you to keep an eye out for anything suspicious. Ami, talk to Tiona about modifying your visor. The blue-haired genius nodded enthusiastic and quickly left. Michiru and HAuka headed out the door. We'll have to do some planning on our own, she said, leading the blonde out of the room. Luke watched the pair leave. They make a good team. Before he could pass instructions to Setsuna and Hotaru, Luke's danger sense flared into overdrive. He ran to the window and looked up to the sky, freezing out with the force. There's something out there, he said. Setsuna and Hotaru exchanged looks of confusion. Reach out with the force, like you were taught. Both ladies half closed their eyes and expanded their senses beyond Alvin 4. Hotaru's eyes flew open in surprise.
Something's coming our way!
Suddenly, Luke's communicator on his belt chirped. He pressed a button on his belt and spoke. This is Skywalker. What is it? The voice coming over the comm was scratchy.
This is Bright Hope in orbit. An Imperial Star Destroyer has come out of hyperspace right on top of us. It's firing turbo lasers at us and...
All three planets winced as they felt the death throes of the people on board the ship. Luke activated the Academy-wide intercom and half shouted, This is Master Skywalker. This is an Imperial Star Destroyer in orbit. The only cruiser we have for protection has been destroyed. Assemble in the audience chamber. We've got a battle on our hands. Chapter 4. Tapping into Hate. Leona let out a small gasp of pleasure as the New Republic cruiser exploded. She looked down to the crew pit. Is the strike team ready? Attack quickly contacted the shuttle bay.
We're ready to go, Mom.
The youngest looking woman smiled. Tell them to wait for me. I'll enjoy ransacking Skywalker's playground. With that, she turned and headed for the aft turbo lifts. In minutes, the lift doors opened, and Leia found herself in the launch bay. Just ahead of her, a shuttle was being loaded with armor-clad stormtroopers, white-clad deodares of the old Empire. Leona quickly ran up to them. Let's get this transport loaded up, she shouted, trying to take charge. One of the stormtroopers turned to her.
We're all set, ma'am. We're waiting for you.
He basically explained. The petulant moth looked up at the stormtrooper. Listen, you tin-plated skis-for soldier! I was planning raids on New Republic bases with far more protection than one already destroyed cruiser. She quickly walked up to the boarding ramp and took a seat.
Stormtrooper he was then talking to approached her. Ma'am, that's my seat. Your seat is in the cockpit.
Jaina, Tahiri, and Tenel Ka rushed to the Great Temple's audience chamber, just as Luke began to address his Jedi. We don't have much time, he began. Our communications is being jammed, but I was able to send a message to my sister on Coruscant through the Force. A hand shot up in front of the middle of the pack. Master Skywalker, what good would it do to send a message to your sister? It was Mishiru, her face inquisitive. Luke acknowledged her with a glance. My sister is Leia Organa Solo, President of the New Republic. That brought a wave of snickers from the assembled Jedi, but they were quickly silenced by a hard stare from Luke. We have no time for frivolities such as that. He quickly established eye contact with everybody. Escape out into the forest. Lead them there where you have the advantage, but don't take risks. The Jedi Master sighed, letting the decades of conflict show on his face for a moment, but only for a moment. The Force will be with you, always. HAuka and Mirir got up quickly and followed their fellow Senshi. Hataru turned around, glanced around the crowd.
Should we transform here? You might scare the others.
HAuka shrugged. I don't see the problem. She held out her right hand and summoned her henshin stick. She held up in the air and shouted, Yonis Kusapa! Make up! A bright energy field surrounded the tall blonde as soon as her words left her mouth. It melted into the jumpsuit she wore. It reformed it into her Sailor Senshi uniform. The tall blonde looked around and noticed some of her fellow trainees was looking at her. She ran her fingers through her hair and smiled rakishly. It's a different look, I agree. But I'm still Tenno HAuka. Suddenly, the temple violently shook, sending loose chunks of rock and plaster raining down. Luke shouted, Evacuate, now! Outside, the 3 Imperial assault shuttles hovered around the Great Temple, firing off laser blasts at the adjacent structure. On board the lead shuttle was Leona Tivira. The listless young woman chuckled at each hit. Great. She turned to the pilot. As soon as the temple's evacuated, bring us right up to Skywalker's office. The pilot nodded his compliance while keeping the shuttle level. Leona kept her eyes on the shuttle's sensors, waiting for the moment when the old temple was devoid of sentient life. After a minute, she half shouted, That's it! The last of the Jedi out! Bring us in! The assault shuttle slid up to the midpoint of the ancient structure. Its approach was not unnoticed, however. 3 pairs of eyes noted the shuttle. They're searching for something, noted Jaina. She turned her brown eyes upon her companions, Tenel Ka and Tahiri. Tenel Ka pointed toward the Cecil. An Imperial officer is jumping out into Master Skywalker's office. We must stop her! Jaina knocking. Yeah, but how do we get there without those other 2 assault shuttles killing us? Tahiri glanced down at the 2 shuttles overhead. Both were pouring fire into the forest and clearing the surrounding Great Temple. She held up her right hand, and an ornate wand appeared in it. I think it's time we showed the imps a little love and justice. The pilot of the shuttle, too, stifled a yawn as he directed the flying weapons platform closer and closer toward the temple. There was absolutely no resistance as the shuttle's lasers poured Coruscantian energy into the forest below. Strangely enough, he could almost see no fires breaking out. Before he could contemplate the meaning of that, the console's proximity alarm beeped. He looked out the forward viewpoint and saw 3 human teenagers sprinting from the forest. The pilot smiled as he lined up the 3 in his gun sights. In just a moment, there would be nothing more than vapor. Before he could press the firing studs, all 3 stopped and held up their right hands. Instantly, they were enveloped in a bright light, so bright he had to turn away before he was blinded. When he looked out at the viewport again, all 3 were somehow wearing different clothes, bodysuits with a skirt around their waist. The smallest one turned around and pointed and raised her hands up, shouting something. Suddenly, a strong wind picked up, and out of nowhere, a sandstorm straight out of Tatooine sent the shuttle into a nosedive. The pilot swore as the controls became sluggish. What was originally a simple pacification was quickly turning into an odd battle. Tatooine Sunblast! Shouted Sailor Tatooine as a veritable blizzard of silica enveloped the 2 assault shuttles. She turned to Sailors Dathomir and Corellia. I'll hold them off! You 2 get inside! Cordelia nodded and turned to Dathomir. If we take the elevator, we should make it. Dathomir shook her head. Is that a fact? She said rather sarcastically. The two approached the great temple. Dathomir looked up and estimated the distance to Master Skywalker's office. I believe I can jump the distance. Enter the temple, and we'll cut off any escape route. With that, the warrior leapt, gazelle-like, into the window 20 meters up. Sarah Cordelia could only gape at the display. Then she shook her head in a mixture of amazement and disgust. I hope you're not over your head. Seconds before Dathomir could leap, Leo Tavira was ransacking Luke's office and running a small crystal wand over every object. The wand was connected to a pack on her hip. It could measure how strong someone or something was with the Force. Oh, it's a tricorder! She had gone over his desk, the chairs, and several cabinets. Losing patience, she finally went up to a wall display. Several lightsabers were mounted on a rack. Trophy case? Leona waved the wand over the lightsabers. It was restored from a response from the Force detector as he waved it over one of them. She grabbed it and smashed it against the stone wall, breaking the cylinder apart and revealing a small green crystal. It glowed with almost a hypnotic power. As he was pocketing the crystal, Sailor Dathomir came sailing in, startling the moth and almost giving her a heart attack. It is wrong for you to steal things from a Jedi Master, she said. In the name of the Force, I'll punish you! Leona gave the sailor Senshi a once-over. Do you did you lose some sort of bet? She asked, all the while training a blaster pistol on Dathomir. The Senshi backed away from her, right hand strained toward her lightsaber. All her senses were directed at the woman inching toward her, leaving her vulnerable from the other side. A half-a-dozen stun bolts slammed into Sailor Dathomir, surrounding the redhead with a blue aura. The impact sent her straight into Leona's arms. The moth eagerly scooped her up and carried her to a salt tunnel, was by now dropped the ramp onto the windowsill. Leona carried Sailor Dathomir into the shuttle, just as a panting Sailor Cordelia burst into the room. The young woman could only look on hopelessly as the shuttle doors closed and it launched itself into the sky. Cordelia numbly walked up to the windowsill, wishing it was all a dream, but it wasn't. Her best friend had just been kidnapped. Sailor Cordelia reached out and found the location of Luke. She sent a message for the Force. Uncle Luke, Tennock's been kidnapped. I know, Jaden. Unfortunately, this doesn't bode well for us. I'll explain when I return. With that, the Jedi Master entered the conversation with his niece. He looked to the sky and could fairly feel Tennock's presence. After a few moments, it vanished altogether, indicating she was either no longer in the Yavin system or was dead. Either way, there would be hell to pay once he caught up to whoever did this. Luke found himself in the grand audience chamber a half an hour later. With him were several people he knew could be vital to any rescue attempt. The Sailor Senshi were all present, as well as Jason Solo, Zek, Anakin Solo, and Lobaka. The 12 of them stood on the main stage in a loose semicircle. In the middle was a portable holoprojector. Luke held up his hand and activated it, showing a three-dimensional image of Leona. This is Leona Tavara. About 23 years ago, she married the Moth Ilatu. After Endor, he killed himself. Or she killed him, we don't know. She assumed control and siphoned away the planet's wealth. When the planet was liberated, she fled with most of the wealth and an Imperial-class Mark II Star Destroyer. Zek studied the image, struggling a scraggly chin and thought. When I was a bounty hunter, I ran across some of her old associates. Every one of them was used up, and absolutely no position to do anything about it. Luke nodded. The last we heard of her was about 5 years ago. She had thrown in with pirates near Tatooine, and Hot Spig. She barely escaped with her life. Jason nodded eagerly. Okay, let's find her! He looked at his friends. Come on! An Imperial moth has kidnapped our friend! We've got to rescue her! Sister held up her hand in a calming gesture. We know, Jason. However, getting us worked up will solve nothing. We need a plan. HAuka spoke up. More importantly, how do we need to know just where this little tramp took Tennock? She looked at Luke, her eyes ablaze. I assume you've dealt with Imperial kidnappings before? Luke shook his head. I believe we're dealing with more than a simple kidnapping. Leona ransacked my office, looking for something. I took inventory and found I was missing a lightsaber. He rubbed the bridge of his nose. The focusing crystal I used was called a kyber crystal. I found it about a year after the Battle of Yavin. It has force power, but not much. Ami hesitated for a second before finally speaking.
Do you know its history, Master Skywalker?
The Jedi Master shook his head. No. The temple where I found it no longer stands. He looked around at his students. All of them looked anxious, especially one young man. Jason, I want you to start investigating where Leona might have gone. Find out where that Star Destroyer was. He turned to Senshi. I need you five to amp up your training. Ami, Setsuna, Hotaru, Misiru, I need you to start lightsaber construction. The four girls nodded. HAuka, the one left out, waited for a bit, wondering what Luke was going to say to her. Finally, he turned to the Amazon and cleared his throat. Ahem. HAuka, I need you to help Tion in researching the Kyber crystal. Any information you can find out will be vital. HAuka's face fell as he realized what he'd be doing. Stuck with the bookworm in some dusty library? Yes, Master, was all she could say before she turned on her heel from the group and headed off the stage. Well, hey, I know some pretty cool bookworms. Yeah. Misiru watched as her companion walked off.
Master Skywalker, I don't mean to presume, but why are you sending HAuka to do research? Wouldn't Avi or I be better?
Luke allowed himself a tight smile as he addressed her. HAuka's learning to control her pride and anger, but she still needs time. I have a feeling this mission will aid her in that. Misiru nodded, apparently satisfied with the explanation. Jason suddenly grabbed Zek's sleeve and began to drag him off. Come on! He said as he entered the turbolith. To his credit, the older and stronger former Darkest Knight didn't smack the maniac Jason. Instead, he simply pulled away, grabbed him by the sleeve, and spun him around. Anxious, aren't we? Zek sighed. Jason, we won't get anywhere going all half-cocked like that. Jason's eyes bulged in anger as he grabbed Zek by his jumpsuit. Listen here, you nerve herder! Tell cause of the conscience of a psychotic little moth who's probably torturing her right now if we don't do something soon. He trailed off as tears threatened to burst from his eyes. His breath shuddered in his throat as images danced before his mind's eye. Zek put a covering arm around his shoulder. I know. I'd feel the same way if it was Jaina. But we can't rush off without a plan. The lift door suddenly opened, and the two found themselves in an old rebel command center. In the subsequent years, Luke had converted it into a sensor and communications station. Zek went up to the main screen and activated the controls. An image of the Dark Star Destroyer appeared. Jason walked to it and examined the image. Don't Star Destroyers have their name burned into their hull along the bridge tower? Zek turned to him and nodded. Yeah, I forgot about that. He manipulated the image so the rectangular bridge came into view. ISS Fury's her name, announced Zek. Jason's brows furrowed in concentration. Where have I heard that name before? Then it struck him like a bolt of Sith lightning. Oh, blaster bolts! I know who we're dealing with! He said, making a dash for the turbolith. Zek followed. Who? The Sith. Oh, great. Wait! Are they extinct? Uncle Luke told me about the last Sith Lord. Her name's Lamia. The problem is, Uncle Luke used to be in love with her. What? Zek rolled his eyes. Great. Just what we don't need. A Jedi-Sith love triangle. Hey, Lamia, back off. Luke Skywalker is Mara Jade's. And conversely, Mara Jade is mine. I call dibs. Speaking of which, J.J. Abrams, if you are listening to this, first off, why are you listening to my show? Second of all, Mara Jade, new movie trilogy. Do it. Third of all, hi, Mr. Abrams. Welcome to the show. Tenokai's vision swam as her eyes slowly opened. Only candles lit the room she was in, but even that small amount of illumination hurt her head. She squinted and shielded her eyes, letting them adjust to the light. Finally, she looked up and saw a woman in a chair. Hello, the woman said. I was wondering when you were going to begin to wake up. I was tempted to let Leona try something,
but the look in her eyes convinced me not to.
Tennoka shuddered at that. The woman, Lamia, got up and walked across to Tennoka. The warrior could hear tiny motors humming and gears turning as the Sith Lord strode across the room toward her.
It's quite interesting, your powers. They're incredibly powerful, but are quite limited in time. Less than 3 days, the uniform you were wearing disappeared, along with your left arm.
Tennoka glanced down at her left arm, and the pink stump it ended in end. She maneuvered around to a sitting position, and finally got to her feet. Tennoka concentrated, attempting to summon her Senshi powers. After a moment, she expected to feel the now familiar weight of her transformation wand in her right hand. Instead, she was empty-handed. Tennoka's cheek blushed red as Lamia's hair. Lamia was walking around the young Jedi, appraising her. Finally, she stopped and pointed to Tennoka's stump.
What happened? Why didn't you get a cybernetic replacement?
Tennoka sighed as she searched for the words. Finally, she spoke, her voice heavy.
I lost it in a training accident 3 years ago.
I do not need a replacement arm. I function quite well without it. Lamia immediately snorted and waved her off.
Your lie is as transparent as a spider's web. In your other form, you had a real arm. You cannot stand here and tell me you've never stayed in it beyond necessity.
Lamia's green eyes bore a hole into Tennoka as she spoke. Eventually, the young Jedi broke and softly whispered,
Yes, I remain a Senshi beyond training and duty.
She looked up at Lamia, almost pleading.
You obviously know what it's like to lose a part of yourself. It felt right to do it.
Lamia nodded.
You wish to be whole again. I can understand that. Anyone can understand that. The dark side can help you, as it helped me.
She held out her hand, but Tennoka looked to her warily.
How can I trust you?
You're a Sith!
Lamia smirked. Yes, I am. However, I don't accidentally slice off a friend's arm.
Tennoka shook her head.
No! Jason didn't do that on purpose! He couldn't!
Tennoka's mind abruptly went back to that day 3 years ago on Yavin 4, where her old lightsaber failed, and she lost the lower half of her left arm. However, this time the memories were different. Her friend Jaina seemed less concerned than before, and Jason was laughing. She closed her eyes and shook her head in an effort to clear her thoughts, but it hung there like a specter. Jason was laughing at her after slicing off her arm. She dropped to her knees, hand grabbing at Lamia's cape. Red-hot anger soon boiled to the surface. Suddenly, Tennoka found herself with her transformation wand in hand. She jumped to her feet, held it high and shouted out, "Dathomir power! Make up!" A red mist enveloped the young woman, dissolving the lizard skin armor she had been wearing. The mist condensed and formed into her Senshi uniform, while a globule of energy coalesced around her left arm and formed a forearm of her left hand. After a minute, Sailor Dathomir emerged, prompting Lamia to smile.
Excellent.
She stepped forward and gently grabbed Dathomir's arm.
With the dark side, you can be whole like this forever.
Sailor Dathomir hesitated before saying,
I'm not sure. My friends.
She was cut off by an angry Lamia.
Your friends mutilated you. They laughed about it. They even deny you a method of regaining that's what you lost. How can you contemplate returning to them?
A hard resolve crossed Sailor Dathomir's face.
That's a fact. If it wasn't for Jason, I would still be whole.
She knelt at Lamia's feet, cast her eyes to the deck, playing,
I will join you.
The mistress of the Sith chuckled.
Excellent. Why don't you go and get something to eat? I'm sure you're starving.
Dathomir suddenly felt hungry pains. They weren't there a moment ago, but now she felt like she hadn't eaten in days.
Very well,
she said dully. A doorway, several mirrors behind her opened, and tore stormtroopers open.
Take off young friend to the death line. Thus he can sample the finest in Imperial cuisine.
The stormtroopers lined up and escorted Senshi into the room. As soon as the door shut, Lamia turned around and walked to a darker corner of the room.
Excellent work, my young apprentice, she said to Callista. The woman smiled. It was nothing. She's obsessed with keeping that arm. The young apprentice Lamia stepped forward and walked to Lamia's chair. She bent down and picked up a Sith map that was there. How you've been able to open that map up? She asked. Lamia snarled. The Kyber crystal fits, but the map stays closed. She grabbed the map away from Callista and began clawing the lock that bound the ancient piece of metal together. Finally, in a fit of rage, she threw it across the room. The map rebounded against the wall and landed with a clattering thud. Sparks erupted from Lamia's hand and arm as she let her anger reach a boil. After a half a minute, blue-white lightning erupted from her hand and enveloped the map. After a full minute of pumping her hate into the lightning, she stopped, her shoulders bobbing up and down as she panted. Before either woman could react, the lock that bound the map together glowed and sprang open. An old man's hand appeared, wraith-like over the map. He was wearing an odd hat and had a series of tattoos running along his cheek. Fellow Sith, he intoned, if you are seeing this, then the Sith Empire has fallen. This map will lead you to an ancient tome. In it lies the key to ultimate power over the universe. The man's image faded, leaving an echo of his last words behind. Lamia reached out with the Force and levitated the map into her hands. She activated a comm unit on her belt. This is Lamia. We leave for Korriban in 12 hours! Ami hunched over her workbench. It was nearly a day since Tennokan was kidnapped, and all they could do was wait for Master Skywalker to finish his search for the Lamia woman. In the meantime, she busied herself with her final tasks. Spread out before the blue-haired genius was a set of tools and mini-computer. On the display were instructions on the lightsaber construction and maintenance. The instructions were simple enough, Ami thought. Finding the right materials proved interesting, however. She acquired a power cell from her friend Jaina, the materials for the handle from Anakin's scrap pile. She then spent about 3 hours welding the parts together to form a small handle. The internal wiring was the tricky part, since it was quite advanced compared to what she usually worked with. The most difficult part, though, was finding a focusing crystal. Ami looked over most of the Great Temple, but small, perfectly shaped crystals were in short supply. While she pondered this, her eyes drifted to her mini-computer. It hit her like a thunderbolt. She seized it and unscrewed the back of the casing. There sat a small ovoid crystal, once part of a holographic display. Ami had bypassed it with a newer model, so it just took up room. She popped it out of its casing and attached it to small amounts inside the handle. Ami sealed the casing and stood up. The Senshi of water stepped back from her workbench and activated a small control. A fiery blue blade emerged from the emitter with a snap hiss. Ami gazed at wonder at the blade. Now, I am a Jedi, she whispered fervently. Just then, Jaina entered the room. She saw the blade and smiled. Nice. You did check to make sure the crystal's not flawed, right? Ami nodded. Of course. Otherwise the energy might not be released properly. And who knows what would happen. Darkness seemed to settle over Jaina's face as she said, That's what happened to Tenno's first lightsaber. It fires down at Jason's... Her voice trailed off as he remembered the events. If that Lamia hurts her, I swear I'll make her regret being born! She shook her head violently. Sorry. Ami shook her head and spoke. It's all right, but try not to think that way in battle, okay? Jaina blinked. Okay. She motioned to Ami's lightsaber. Have you had much practice with stun sticks? She asked. Ami looked over the shining energy blade. I'll admit not much. Mirir and Hotaru have been monopolizing the remote droids for a while. Jaina walked over to her. Shh! Would you care to duel? She asked, unclipping her own lightsaber from her belt. Ami nodded enthusiastically. Yes, that would be great. The two friends found themselves out in the courtyard, in front of the great temple. Jaina pressed an activation stud on her lightsaber, causing a violet blade to spring forth. Ami's sapphire-colored sky lightsaber was already activated.
The two women stepped forward and touched blades, causing a small amount of sparks to erupt. Feeling a touch of bravado, Ollie swung her fancy arc and said,
For the love of the Force, I am the praised Jedi, Sailor Mercury!
Jaina shook her head and quickly stabbed at Ami, forcing her to bring her blade back up for defense.
Psst, I'm not going easy on you,
she said as she forced her blue-haired friend back. It took all of Ami's meager skills just to keep pace with Jaina's assault. The purple blade darted in and out, probably for any weakness in Ami's defenses.
She's good.
She's good, Jaina thought, as she swung her blade into feint. Ami winced as Jaina came perfectly close to slicing off her nose. Although she would be the clear victor in a contest of brains, a contest of lightsaber skill was proving most educational to the young lady. After only a few moments, Jaina broke through Ami's defense with a simple feint and knocked her lightsaber away. Ami sighed and held up both hands and said,
I yield.
Jaina nodded and holstered her own lightsaber.
You concentrate too much on defense, with virtually no attempts on offense. I know your Senshi powers are defensive in nature, but eventually you have to go on the offensive.
Ami nodded, panting slightly from the brief exercise. She suddenly felt a familiar presence just behind her. She glanced back and saw Setsuna and Ataru standing there, both in full Senshi uniform.
Master Skywalker has news,
Ataru said. Jaina noticed that she had a faraway look in her eyes.
Are you all right?
She asked, concern and a slight tremble in her voice. Sarah Pluto nodded.
We know where Lumiya is. HAuka has also found something disturbing concerning this Kyber crystal.
Jaina gulped as he thought about something that could worry the Guardian of Time.
What are we waiting for?
She asked as she and Ami ran up to Pluto and Sailor Saturn. As the quartet ran up the Great Temple stairs to find her uncle, Jaina couldn't help but think one simple phrase to herself.
I have a bad feeling about this.
Jaina, didn't you learn from your father? Never say that in a Star Wars picture! That always leads to horrifying news! The quartet of ladies smelled Luke down in the bowels of the Great Temple, standing in the Academy's communications center. On the main view screen was an old man in a white Imperial uniform. Luke turned his head slightly towards the four young ladies as he exited the Turbolift. Ah, I'm glad to see you made it so quickly. He turned back to the screen. Thank you for your information, Admiral Palladion. He raced out and switched off the view screen before speaking. Lumiya's forces are orbiting a planet called Tangreen, according to Grand Admiral Palladian's informants in her fleet. They're getting ready to leave for a planet known as Korriban within 5 days. Ami quickly produced her computer and inputted hyperspace calculations.
The right guy could be there in 3 days,
she stated. Jaina pursed her lips together as he processed the information.
That's a fairly wide margin of error.
She paced around for a bit, talking to herself and friends. It'll take a fairly short time to assemble a rescue team, but penetrating Lumiya's forces won't be a challenge. Luke nodded. Not bad, Jaina. But Lumiya is the current Sith Lord. She also has a command of a considerable attack force. We should be cautious. Jaina looked like she was about to protest, but was cut off by a turbo lift doors opening once more. Jason, Sek, Anakin, Tyri, Loie, Michiru, Luna, and HAuka spilled out of the car. Okay, next time, we ride in separate cars, Sek said, holding out a breath. He glanced at everyone else. Are we ready? Jason walked up to Luke. His brown eyes lit up with urgency. Uncle Luke, we're going to rescue Tenaka, right? Luke put his hand on Jason's shoulders. Jason, I know how you feel about Tenaka. I felt the same way before. But there's more to this than a simple kidnapping. He let go and turned to HAuka. HAuka, would you please share about what you've learned about the Kyber crystal? HAuka stepped forward and pulled out a crystalline spear from her pocket. While helping Tion with research, I stumbled upon the sealed box. Tion didn't know what it was for, but something in it rattled around. I couldn't open it either, so I sliced it open with my space sword. Ha! She made a slashing movement with her hand as the smirk crossed her face. We found this trinket inside. It's a holographic projector, detailing what the Kyber crystal's used for. Believe me when I say it's not pretty. Apparently,
There was an old empire run by Darksiders, and they had a book. HAuka's body went tense as he thought about what he read. Master, why would anyone want to rip a hole open to hyperspace? Luke's face strained by color. By a force, he whispered. Everybody in the room picked up on the rising despair in the Jedi Master's soul. Sec was the first to approach him. Master Skywalker, what is it? He asked, fear tinting his voice. The Jedi Master addressed the student. Sec, when you were at the Shadow Academy, did Brackus ever mention something called the Book of Hate? The former Darkest Knight thought back to that time. No. Gina looked to her uncle, then back to Zach. Could somebody tell me what this Book of Hate is? Luke sighed as he thought about a painful part of his life. About 15 years ago, the resurrected Emperor began writing a series of books detailing his interpretation of the dark side. He thought he was the first to codify dark side teachings. Looks like he was wrong. Pluto quickly picked up on his meaning. You're saying the Sith Empire broke down their powers and techniques into a book? Luke nodded at her. If Lamia gets her hands on that book, a new era of darkness will descend. It's imperative we prevent her from doing that. A chorus of affirmatives echoed across the room. Tahiri flashed a Timothy grin as he spoke up. Well, what are we waiting for? That is a good place to stop. Join us tomorrow where I bring out the next part. Oh yeah. I'm going to give you guys time to take in all the awesomeness. Once again, I love this fic.